Good morning and welcome everyone to our webinar today. The subject is the infamous DORA. We will be talking the Digital Operational Resilience Act, and we will be putting the spotlight today specifically on the data handling requirements under DORA. And I tried to make this a very practical guide. So we will be focusing specifically on kind of steps that you can actually take to put the data handling under DORA on check. I will spend a moment to introduce myself. I will be your host for the next 45 minutes that we have for this webinar. My name is Alexey Boltunov. I am the COO at Jetico. I've been with the company for over 12 years now, and I've held what seems to be every possible position across the tech vertical. So my background is very technical engineering, software testing, and now operations. So you will probably see the impact of this on today's slide. I tried to make this less theoretical and more like operations practical approach. We are headquartered in Helsinki, Finland, and we have over 30 years of experience behind our backs. Jetico was a pioneer when it comes to endpoint data protection and secure data handling, and we are still around more than 3 decades later. And to my great pride and pleasure, our software is used by the organizations around the world, the kind of organizations that have to adhere to the strictest security requirements there are when it comes to data handling. I will put up some logos on the screen. I'm putting the logos on the screen right now, and you can notice that these are some big government agencies, defense agencies, and defense contractors around the world. The peculiar thing about those types of customer is that they almost exist outside of compliance. They don't necessarily have anyone controlling them from above. So they are very risk elimination oriented. They don't care so much about auditability and demonstrability of the results, which is in direct contrast with the kind of crowd that we are seeing to express interest in our kind of technology these days, which are compliance-driven businesses. So in today's webinar, I wanted to share my personal experiences helping our customers achieve their compliance goals, but at the same time helping like my business shifting from this kind of very risk-oriented customers to compliant-oriented customers, and some findings that I have observed along the way. DORA will be the kind of spotlight for today, but I'm hoping that the findings that we uncover throughout this session will be applicable to similar compliance regulations alike, namely GDPR that is applied together with DORA. We will have 5 sort of stops along the way. We will start by talking theory a little bit. We will have a look at where DORA touches data handling in its articles. We will then try to identify where implementation challenges actually arise. And to better understand this and the root causes of those challenges, I will offer you to walk with me through a sort of mental model that will hopefully bring, visibility into focus for us today. And because I promised that this is going to be practical, we will finish off with trying to translate those principles that we are about to uncover into action. And we will finish with the Q&A depending on the time that we have. Our intention is to not leave any question unanswered. So if we have a lot of questions, we will probably take some of those offline, but the Q&A section should be already available to everyone. So please submit your questions as we go. And I will review those at the end of the session and hopefully give some live answers. All right, but having identified the sort of the direction that we are moving in, let's dive right in. Let's start with a little bit of theory. And on this slide, you can see the selection of DORA articles that are relevant to data handling. We will not dive in very deep, but if you look at them together, kind of zoom out a little bit, basically the takeaway is that DORA expects organizations to stay in full control of their data throughout the entire data lifecycle, right? And it makes sense. In theory, it sounds very straightforward. But in practice, this is where things start to get challenging. And my personal belief is that those challenges arise from the blind spots and kind of biases that we have towards the understanding of the complete data lifecycle. You see, I've noticed throughout my professional career that like we tend to focus, and specifically also data security tools tend to over focus on the stages of the life cycle that are more visible and easier to understand. And whereas like we pay less attention to the stages of the life cycle that are less visible, but they are often more risky. And to kind of explore this idea further, like to look at the data lifecycle and its completeness, I want to introduce the idea of the data iceberg. So you can think about your business data as the data iceberg. There's of course the shiny top level that is rising above the water. This is the good data, the visible data. This is the data that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. But this is only a small fraction of the entire data that is being generated and stored on your endpoint, for example. There's a much bigger middle section that is lingering just below the surface. It is not some mystical data. It's still active data, maybe system generated, application generated, but it tends to kind of escape our visibility a little bit. But there is yet another level, even deeper. The bottom, the deepest level is what we call the residual data level. And we will now walk through and like have a closer look at each of the data iceberg sections here. But one thing that I want to bring with us along the journey is like pay attention as we move down the iceberg to what happens to visibility, because the idea that I suggest here is that visibility actually decreases drastically as we move down the iceberg. And with this decrease of visibility, it has consequences, right? Okay, so we have what we need. We mapped out the journey along the iceberg. We have the kind of key thought that we want to take with us on that journey. So let's start on the positive note. Let's start with the tip of the iceberg, the visible data, right? This is just above the surface. This is the actively used business data. This is what you're working with on a day-to-day basis. And this data is also typically easy to work with and easy to govern. It is concentrated in like defined known locations. It has clear ownership structure most of the time, hopefully, and it is governed by policies. This is where most organizations focus their data governance and data protection policies on or at. And rightfully so. It's the kind of the low-hanging fruit of data. It has the highest visibility, that it's the easiest to control. But the alarming fact here is that it is estimated to only take up to 1/4 of the entire data set that is generated and stored, accumulated on the system. But what's up with the rest of the data then? Well, we move down to the midsection, actually the chunkiest part of the data iceberg. We call it the invisible data. Well, it sounds very mysterious, the invisible data, but there's nothing mysterious about it. It's system-generated operational data. This is kind of files that applications create as you use them to process, for example, customer and business data, some systems logs, and they contain the valuable information, the same information that is like you're working with and that is visible to you on the upper level, but they do so kind of behind the curtains almost, right? And unfortunately, this data is like less likely to be tied to specific locations. It's more distributed. Ownership is often unclear. Retention might be inconsistent because, for certain applications, we know how to guard the specific locations. For other applications, we don't necessarily know that. And because this data is like hiding beyond the surface, we tend to focus less of our efforts there. But yeah, it also takes higher effort to take control over this section. And this is the bigger part of the iceberg. This is estimated to take up to 60% of all data that is being generated, and some estimates even show as much as 80%. Okay, we already start seeing some visibility challenges and data governance challenges, but we are not even yet at the bottom. So let's go there. The bottom section, the residual data. And this is actually the deleted data. So everything that is being deleted on the top section of the iceberg and then the middle section of the iceberg just ends up here. Right, these files are recoverable. These are some deleted files in the free space, slack space, and so on. And unfortunately, this is where visibility and control collapses. They both collapse because there is no ownership even possible over this data. There's no file system visibility. This sort of data is existing outside of control, yet it is fully recoverable. And just to sum it up, maybe to introduce the idea of like data deletion as something that we are very familiar with and we are all like used to it, but to understand here that deleting data does not actually eliminate the risk. It just eliminates the visibility of data by pushing it downward to the very bottom level of the iceberg. And this data just accumulates there with no visibility, no current control, and with remaining a persistent risk. And this data is estimated to amount for about 15% of the all data that is processed and used in our systems. Okay, but now that we went through all three sections of the iceberg, it becomes pretty evident that visibility is something that decides how much control and how much compliance we can have, right? Visibility is really the backbone of both control and compliance because it enables control. It enables enforcement of the correct enforcement of retention policies, but at the same time, visibility goes hand in hand with auditability. Yeah, it is directly influencing your capability to provide demonstrable results for audit. And so I want to underline here the importance of visibility for all our visibility of data for all our data handling efforts moving onward. And we will identify 3 challenges in the next slides when it comes to implementing the data handling policies in your organizations. But all 3 of them can actually be traced down to just one issue, which is with visibility. So if you need to have one takeaway here is that visibility is key. Naturally, then, if we identify that visibility is so important for us, we would want to maximize visibility where it's possible, and then minimize anything that is preventing the visibility, that is decreasing our visibility. So what can we do in practice to regain control over visibility? So to start, we can strengthen the visibility at the surface and the two top sections of the iceberg, right? To just have stronger visibility across the active data. We can also then prevent the visibility from degrading by preventing the uncontrolled data drift downward, right? To prevent this kind of deletion, pushing data from the top section, the middle section, down to the uncontrolled bottom section with no visibility. And on top of that, we would wish to make our data handling efforts demonstrable and auditable for compliance. Yeah, these are three kind of overall directions that we want to take, but what exactly we can do in practice to implement those strategies. In the next slides, we will look into details in each of those ideas, and we will compare how traditional approach and, let's say, less data lifecycle focus approach compares to the new shift in thinking that I suggest we should make to improve our data handling capacity. We'll start by strengthening the visibility at the surface. So the one strategy that I want to kind of leave in the past here is something that I refer to as passive governance. Passive governance relies on assumed data location, manual classification. So a lot of processes are tied to individual functions, and nothing is automated. And most of the things are just kind of, focused on what we know and then forgetting about what we don't know. Instead, I want us to switch thinking to active data discovery, because active data discovery enables us to perform enforced retentions. It allows us to verify data locations and have automated identification of data that we need to protect and govern. So the verdict here is clear: do less of this and do more of this. Leave behind the passive governance and switch your thinking, switch gears to active data discovery instead. All right, but when it comes to preventing the loss of visibility as data moves downwards from the top levels of the iceberg to the very bottom, the real culprit here is data deletion. I cannot count how many times I've said this sentence in my life, in my professional career, but data deletion does not remove data. Deletion actually makes things worse. It removes the visibility, it obscures access to data, and we, using standard deletion, we lose control over data. Yes, it provides immediate relief, right? It's easily accessible, right-click, delete. Oh, I don't see the file anymore, it's gone. But it doesn't eliminate the underlying data, and it actually preserves the risk associated with the data being still recoverable and still existing on the storage media. So an alternative to this, a knight in the shining armor here, would be secure data erasure. Secure data erasure actually, instead of pushing the data down the iceberg, it just removes it altogether out of the map. It eliminates the risk by preventing the recoverability of data, and most of data secure erasure solutions are auditable by design. They come with demonstrable audit trails, documentation, erasure reports, and so on. So again, the verdict is pretty clear here. Leave behind the standard data deletion for sure. Use secure data erasure instead. This data retention is the most overlooked part of the data lifecycle, and I cannot emphasize enough the importance of not just leaving your data abandoned at the bottom of the data iceberg, but actually taking good care of it by just securely erasing it. And we are closing the loop. We are ready to close the loop by just making sure that our data handling efforts are actually demonstrable. And here, the suggestion is to move from the assumed control model, where action is taken without evidence. And I'm all for action, right? Some organizations struggle already at the action part of things. So yes, take care of making sure that you have actionable policies, but make them auditable. Move away from individual responsibilities and switch to the model of demonstrable control. Use tools that are audit ready by design. Use tools that offer automated actions that perform things that are policy driven instead of relying on individual responsibility. And it will not be news, I guess, for anyone in this webinar that the logic remains. Leave behind the assumed control system and move towards the demonstrable control system. Okay, now that we have walked through the 3 segments of the data iceberg, now that we have identified the visibility and control challenges associated with each of those segments, we are ready to kind of tie everything together and summarize the core compliance challenges, right? And again, I mentioned before that I will name 3 of the challenges, but they all boil down to visibility. So number 1, clearly visibility. Number 2, control, and control kind of deteriorates with loss of visibility. So it can be tied back to visibility, and accountability walks hand in hand with visibility. This is clear. So if these are the core compliance challenges, what could be the operational response to those challenges? Yeah, it will come as no surprise that an operational response to visibility would be to discover data using data discovery tools to continuously monitor the creation, the appearance, and also the disappearance, the end of life of data. Taking control by protecting what needs to remain, but also getting rid in a secure manner from everything that needs to go. The operational response to losing control associated with loss of visibility is to erase data, prevent data from just accumulating at the bottom of the iceberg, use secure erasure tools to get rid of it permanently. And of course, do so in a demonstrable way. Rely on tools that have that are audit ready by design and that can help you generate demonstrable results. Okay, let's keep in mind these 3 key steps almost as a mantra, right? Discover, erase, and demonstrate. And at this point, I'm ready to switch to the example part of this webinar. I wanted to share how how I've personally worked with our customers solving their compliance needs, and what our response to this discover, raise, and demonstrate challenge was. All right, so as a response to those 3 operational challenges and as an effort to promote this discoverability, erasability, and traceability, we have developed a tool that combines all three. For our customers in the compliance market, we have designed a web-based management console that puts together data retention through secure data erasure managed across the entire organization. It also features a module for data discovery that enables organizations to locate sensitive data across their corporate network. We talked briefly today about GDPR and how DORA does not override GDPR, but instead is designed to work alongside it. So GDPR was one of the earlier regulations that was groundbreaking in terms of giving users the right to erasure and actually very directly mentioning the need for secure erasure. And so we have developed a preset for our customers to be able to easily respond to right to erasure requests by identifying finding personally identifiable information associated with the specific data subject across the corporate network, creating an erasure policy or data retention policy associated with this specific data, with the specific findings, and then being able to generate data erasure reports. Or this is one of the reports, actually. We have 3 levels of report here that is designed to generate data for audit, to not only focus on eliminating the risk, but also focusing on having the demonstrable result. So yeah, this was our practical solution to the challenges that we saw our customers facing as they are navigating the implementation of compliance requirements under GDPR, NIS2, and now most recently DORA. So what I will be doing now is I will be taking a little break. I will go through the Q&A sections to see what sort of questions have been submitted. Okay, let's have a look. How often should we review retention? Okay, that's a good question. And thinking back to this slide where we talked about assumed control versus demonstrable control, and most importantly, passive governance versus active data discovery. So when we talked about active data discovery, I've actually something that we found very, very useful is that when data discovery is automated, then you can actually future-proof your retention policies by setting up time triggers, right? So with a proper data discovery tool, you can identify data that is reaching its retention time, right? So if you are obliged to store certain kinds of information, know your customer information, for example, for let's say 10 years, and then you are supposed to securely eliminate it, then you can create automated erasure policies, automated data retention policies based on, or together with the data discovery that helps you identify the data that is approaching the retention period and the end of life. And this is actually very good for audit when you can demonstrate that you're not only taking care of, data retention retrospectively, right? Instead, you're doing so proactively by having like automated policies instead of this individual responsibility that identifies the data before it reaches the end of life and then securely erases it. And the tool that we have developed for our customers actually has both capabilities, has the capabilities to identify data based on, specific timestamps based on its content content, of course, but also to create scheduled data retention policies that can be repeated on a recurring schedule. I may have a look whether we have more questions. Okay. From a practical perspective, is secure erasure realistic for everyday use, or is it too time-consuming to apply at scale? Okay, this is a very good question. It shows the operational thought behind it. The notion that secure data erasure is time-consuming, kind of resource-consuming, has some grounds in it, but this is the thinking of, let's say, 10 years back. These days, modern data erasure tools are designed to run completely unnoticeably, to run in the background. Most of the time, if I'm thinking about our tool, it is capable of being triggered by users shutting down their PC or logging off their session. So essentially, those retention policies and secure erasure can be performed outside of the user hours and can be run from a system profile without necessarily even needing a user to be present at their computer. So in that sense, it's completely transparent. And when it comes to SSDs, another kind of myth that is out there is that our modern devices have SSDs, and erasure is negatively impacting the SSDs. Well, certain erasure tools are actually optimized for use on SSD, and for us, we've developed a patented technology that actually handles SSDs with care and also with like less time and with less computational resources by sort of running this cleanup once and then reserving a certain amount of free space in a clean state. And then next time you need to run an erasure cycle, you only need to erase a small portion of the drive, targeting this kind of very bottom of the data iceberg as you go. All right, we have 5 more minutes left, but for now I just put my contacts on screen. I want to thank everyone. I know that oftentimes good questions also pop up right after you disconnect from a session. So I encourage you to not leave it at that. Please do reach out if you want to learn more. This is my personal email. I will be ready to answer all of your questions. And you can also visit our website and learn more about data erasure, compliance-driven data discovery, and so on. Here are our contacts now on the screen. But otherwise, if I'm not receiving any more questions, I would like to use this time to thank everyone for joining us today on this cold, well, at least cold for us in Finland morning. And yeah, it was a pleasure presenting for you all.